The festive cheer of Christmas Eve 1945 was shattered for the Sodder family in Fayetteville, West Virginia. George and Jenny Sodder, along with 9 of their 10 children, were settling in for the night, their home aglow with the warmth of the holiday season. Little did they know that tragedy was about to strike, leaving an enduring mystery that would haunt their family for generations to come. As the night deepened, a fire erupted in the Sodder home, engulfing the structure in a raging inferno. The flames spread rapidly, fueled by the wooden frame of the house. Panic ensued as the family members realized the gravity of the situation. George Sodder desperately tried to save his children, his mind racing against the encroaching flames. The fire quickly spiraled out of control, and the intense heat and smoke made it impossible for George to reach all of his children trapped inside. Fear gnawed at his heart as he watched helplessly, the roar of the flames a deafening symphony of destruction. The Christmas Eve that had promised joy and laughter had transformed into a nightmare. Amidst the chaos and terror, 5 of the Sodder children managed to escape the inferno. Their hearts pounded in their chests as they emerged from the burning house, coughing and gasping for air. They had cheated death, but their ordeal was far from over. The 5 siblings huddled together, their eyes searching frantically for their missing brothers and sisters. George and Jenny Sodder frantically called out for their missing children, their voices hoarse with fear and desperation. The fire raged on, casting an eerie glow on the faces of the onlookers who had gathered. Hope flickered like a fragile flame as they prayed for a miracle, clinging to the belief that their children were still alive. But as the fire subsided and the smoke cleared, a chilling realization gripped the Sodders. 5 of their children were missing. The authorities launched an investigation, but the fate of the missing Sodder children remained a haunting mystery. The family was left to grapple with an unimaginable loss, their hearts heavy with grief and unanswered questions. The fire marshal, after a cursory investigation, concluded that the fire was accidental, caused by faulty wiring. He posited that the missing children had perished in the fire and that their remains, too badly burned to be identified, had been consumed by the flames. This explanation, however, did little to quell the doubts that gnawed at the Sodder family. Experts in fire science later disputed the fire marshal's findings, pointing out that the intensity and duration of the fire were insufficient to completely incinerate human remains. They argued that bones, being resistant to fire, should have survived the blaze. The absence of any identifiable remains fueled the family's suspicions that something more sinister had transpired that fateful Christmas Eve. The Sodders couldn't shake the feeling that the authorities had been too quick to dismiss the possibility of foul play. They clung to the hope that their children were still alive, their belief fueled by the lack of concrete evidence to the contrary. Their search for answers was far from over. Section 4. Ominous Signs. The Shadows Before the Fire. In the weeks leading up to the fire, the Sodder family had experienced a series of unsettling incidents that, in retrospect, seemed like ominous foreshadowing. A stranger had approached their eldest sons while they were working at a nearby store, attempting to sell them insurance and making unsettling comments about the house going up in smoke. The Sodders, at the time, had dismissed the encounter as the ramblings of a peculiar salesman, but the fire cast a sinister light on his words. Then there was the peculiar incident with the Christmas lights. Jenny Sodder had sent her 2 eldest daughters to buy new fuses for their Christmas lights, which had mysteriously stopped working. The girls returned home with a box of fuses, but none of them worked. It was as if someone had deliberately tampered with their electrical system, setting the stage for the fire. These strange occurrences, though seemingly insignificant at the time, took on a new and disturbing meaning after the fire. The Sodders couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that someone had been targeting their family. The fire, they began to believe, was not an accident, but a deliberate act of arson, meant to cover up something more sinister. Section 5. Whispers of Kidnapping. As the Sodders delved deeper into the circumstances surrounding the fire, they began to uncover whispers and rumors that pointed toward a more sinister explanation: kidnapping. There were reports of a car seen in the vicinity of the Sodder home on the night of the fire, its occupants acting suspiciously. Some witnesses claim to have seen the missing children peering from the windows of a passing vehicle in the days following the fire, their faces etched with fear. These accounts, though secondhand and often conflicting, fueled the Sodders' belief that their children had been abducted. They began to suspect that the fire was a deliberate act of arson, intended to cover up the kidnappers' tracks and mislead the authorities. The thought that their children might still be alive, held captive somewhere, gave them a glimmer of hope amidst their overwhelming grief. Driven by this hope, the Sodders embarked on a tireless campaign to find their missing children. They distributed thousands of flyers with their children's pictures, contacted law enforcement agencies across the country, and even consulted with psychics and private investigators. Their unwavering determination to uncover the truth became their life's mission.